What is up, Insaners, and welcome to the Game Week 21 deadline stream. How are you guys doing? Welcome again to another stream, another game week where a lot can happen, where a lot can go wrong. Of course, we've had some information about double game weeks, blank game weeks. I think there's a lot to discuss for this week as well. I see a lot of people not making any transfers, and that's also one category. And I think we'll discuss all of those details in the next hour and a half. I don't expect to get any information which might be very pivotal to let's say lineups, to let's say certain players. Of course, we might get the Liverpool leaked lineup and the Chelsea leaked lineup, of course, and that might alter our thinking in some way, but I don't think so. Apart from that, anything major is going to happen in the next 1.5 hours. I don't think so. It's going to be very chaotic. And yeah, let's go from there. Welcome again to all of you. Please feel free to add any questions, any comments that you want, or you can in the comments in the chat below. I think it'll be helpful for you as well as for me and the other people in the stream. And yeah, of course, we'll try to answer every question. I'll also try to assess and see my team because I have done certain thinking or certain amount of thought in terms of what I'm doing for this week. But again, as and when we go, certain ideas might just come up in the stream, and we'll take it from there. Hey Nigel, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. Hey Parth, hello to you as well. Welcome to the deadline stream. Cello hold Anthony. So Anthony has a tough fixture this week, and I'm assuming it's United's Anthony. So it's a tough fixture this week. I still expect him to start against Arsenal, but I don't think so. Arsenal away is going to be a very easy game. I think it could be a very close game. I still feel both teams are going to score, but if we talk about United and the United attack, I think Rashford is the one to kind of go for. Even Bruno Fernandes has been putting some decent numbers over the last couple of weeks. So Anthony's not the main man or the preferred pick in attack. But then again, if you've had Anthony for all this while, unless you really want to go towards an Odegaard, and if you feel that probably Odegaard is going to give you more points, considering that he has a confirmed double in game week 23, Man United still don't have a confirmed double game week in 22. So if that's the thinking, or if maybe you want to move towards certain players, if you want to make this move or position as a cash cow, maybe you want to downgrade, etc., and then make certain upgrades, then it's fine. But otherwise, if none of these are in your plans or in your ideas, I think you can hold him. In case if you want to sell him, I think, as I said earlier, Odegaard is one option. If you want to save some money, then there are the Brighton midfielders as well. You can go for Mitoma. You can also go for somebody like a Solly March, for example. I think he's also a great pick. So there are certain outlets that you can, of course, look at, especially when they are lesser in price. If you have some additional money, maybe you can move towards a Fernandes as well. But again, I don't think so. That's a move for this week. It makes a lot more sense when United have a at least a confirmed double game week in 22, and then you can make the move next week rather than in game week 21. So I think that's where I'll be going, or I'll be thinking in terms of my Anthony replacements or what I'm going to do with Anthony. Nigel, you've shared your team as always. Thank you so much for that. David De Gea, Shar, Cancelo, Trippier, Mount, Bruno Fernandes, Almiron, Martinelli. In forwards, you have Kane, Haaland, and Ferguson. Ward, White, Pereira, Diop. One free transfer, 2.3 million in the bank. I mean, the only player I don't like in that team is at least outrightly is Mason Mount. Again, I still don't think Chelsea are up there in terms of giving us fantasy potential. I Now that they have signed so many players, I still feel that Mount is going to get majority minutes. But because of the fact that they've signed so many players, so many young players, there will be some chopping and changing. There will be some rotation. Who the hell knows what Chelsea are going to play? What system are they going to continue with? Or what players are going to come into the 11 and start playing for the Blues? So that's the only problem that I see in this particular team. And considering that there is spot for maybe one United player or even one Arsenal player, I think that's the area that I'll be looking at. It's not an easy game this week as well. I mean, Liverpool are probably on the worst defenses in the Premier League right now, which is very weird that we're talking about Liverpool as one of the worst defenses. But then again, I still don't expect Chelsea to do really well. I mean, they're not really a team who score 4-5 goals anyways, right? So I think that's the area I'll probably look at. Um, Volume is too low. Let me just quickly check the volume. I hope this is better, or I'll just try to come close to the mic. I hope this is better. Let me know if this is fine or this is better. I'll try to readjust it if it's not. Yeah, so that's where I will look at in terms of finding a replacement or maybe working on towards a certain particular pick. I think Mount is probably the the one player that I don't see fitting into this team. Otherwise, I think it's a good team. Hey Mad, hello to you as well. Just want to know how no will KDB play? I mean, KDB didn't start the last game against Tottenham. It was a big shock because everybody was kind of expecting KDB to at least start the game, maybe play 70, 80 minutes. It's Tottenham, right? So you don't really expect KDB to come off early in the game. But the reasons that were cited by Pep, that they were personal reasons and there was nothing to do with injury, it might just be a rest, and Pep might just be fooling around or toying around in his press conference. So I think I don't see any immediate concerns there in terms of KDB. I think he starts this game. I think they have to win this game as well. They have to keep the pressure on Arsenal and even Manchester United. I mean, we are still in the hunt and we are still in the fight, very close to Man City. So I think it's an important game. KDB has a good record against Wolves as well. So I think I'm expecting him to start this game. Let's see. Mitro, Tony, and Almiron to march for a hit. I mean, it's okay doing this because you're getting Tony against Leeds, great fixture. Tony has decent games. I mean, if you're in a scenario, in a very unlikely scenario, if you're trying to captain Tony, I mean, this is great. Almiron to March is also a good option, but these are not necessary moves to do. I mean, they're good moves to do, but you don't really have to make these moves. I mean, you can easily play Mitrovic, who has a decent fixture. I mean, Tottenham on paper looks like a tough game, but I feel that Tottenham are very low on confidence, especially after the defeat. Yes, Antonio Conte would look for a response from the Tottenham team, but it's still very difficult to predict if Tottenham can, keep a clean sheet. And it's a home game for Fulham. Fulham are really strong at home. We know that they're an attack first team, so they don't really care about their defense. They are conceding goals, a lot of chances as well. So I expect Mitrovic to get involved and score. So it's not really a huge difference. Of course, the Tony fixture is still a lot better on paper. So yeah, I mean, you can do it for a hit, but just make sure that you are aware that gaming 25 can be a blank for Tony and it can be a blank for solely March as well. So that's the trade-off that you'll probably have to look at that point of time because of you making the moves right now. So I think there's a high chance of that happening. In fact, so these teams can get a double. Okay, sorry, can get a blank game week. I think you'll have to navigate these transfers in case if you have a solid team. Otherwise, if you probably do not have a lot of Manchester United players, maybe you don't have a lot of Newcastle players, which again I don't think so will be the case. Maybe you can make these moves. But if you, let's say, have 5 to 6 players already from Newcastle and Man United, I still feel going for two more players purposely. I mean, I have these two players in my team because I made these moves earlier. But yeah, I mean, those can be avoided. They will give you points for sure, but I mean, it's not a necessary thing to do. Do you think it's a must to get Rashford or Odegaard for this week? I feel it's. I mean, you can hold with Mount. There's no problem with that. Liverpool, as I said, is not a great defense either, and you can take a punt for 1 week. Next week, if and I think in most in a most likely scenario, Man United are going to double in 22, so you can get Rashford for 22, and then maybe move Rashford to an Odegaard in 23. And that could be the path. Maybe you can look at doing a different move, for example, maybe switching around Almiron. That is also a possibility. But yeah, again, as I said, it's not a necessary move to make, but that's the only move that I will make in case if I'm making a move. That's about it. You can have two free transfers for gaming 22. Maybe you can even punt on a Leeds player. I mean, who's to say that we can't go for a Nonto, for example, or even a Rodrigo in midfield? I know not a lot of people are going to go there, but I mean, there are definitely options that you can look at. Mitoma for Martinelli and Martial for Tony for a -4. So the thing with the thing with Martinelli is that there are now certain doubts emerging in terms of whether he's going to continue playing or whether he's going to be a starter, etc., or not. Considering the fact that Trossard has joined Arsenal, which came from nowhere, and Trossard, of course, he could or he may be starting as a bench option, as a squad option. But I feel that Trossard will get more minutes. I mean, he will play a part in Arsenal's Premier League title or challenge this year, and I think even the numbers don't suggest that Martinelli has been great. I mean, he still has better numbers than Saka, and Saka has outperformed his numbers. He scored more goals and more assists than Martinelli, so he's maybe a better option right now. But yeah, I mean, in case if you have already have an Arsenal option, for example, if you have somebody like a Saka or an Odegaard, I think this move is fine. Martial is still a risk, and even if United get a double in 22, I'm still not very confident of Martial, playing maybe even more than maybe even around 120, 130 minutes. I generally feel that that there could be a risk there. So you're basically getting an option who has a good fixture this week, who has decent fixtures in the upcoming games. Yes, you're taking a hit for it, but I think it's absolutely fine. So, I mean, if I didn't have an Arsenal cover, I think I can get away with it this week, and I can probably take a hit, or take a -4 and get these options. I don't see this week, you know, going for such a combination is a really bad option or something. I think it's fine. Again, just be aware that Tony can blank in game week 25, and at least have some sort of an idea, some sort of a plan ready when that happens, so that you're not really, you're probably just left with about 6 7 players playing in game week 25, and maybe then you panicking and then hitting the free hit button and all that stuff. So that can absolutely happen. Again, it can happen with me as well, but yeah, just be mindful of that fact. Kepa, side you've shared your team. It's Kepa, White, Trippier, Botman. Looks a pretty solid defense. In fact, the same defense as mine. KDB, Martinelli, Rashford, Almiron, Mitrovic, Kane, Haaland. Your subs are Andres Pereira, Neko, and Shaw. Any changes? I don't think so. I'll make any changes, to be honest. I think it's a safe team. It's a solid team for this week. You save your free transfer. If you've not made a transfer already, I think it's better to save a free transfer this week. Have two free transfers in 22, and then maybe you can. I don't know how much money you have, uh, you know, this particular week, but I mean you can use that money next week and then make those changes, or get in a United option, get in a Leeds option, etc. next week. So I think you don't have to make those moves. I understand that you asked Mitrovic, Tony, and Almiron to March. But again, those are not necessary moves. They are great for a short term, maybe a week or two. But you don't really have to do them. Excuse me. Kane, KDB, or Haaland captain. So Haaland is safe. If you are not planning to take any risk, if you just wanna protect your rank, because see, to be very honest, Haaland captaincy is not gonna give you any rank gains. In fact, in Game Week 20, because of the fact that a lot of people triple captain Haaland, any points or any major points that Haaland was scoring, there was a high chance that player or managers like me, managers like you as well, we might be losing out on points, right? So I don't think so that's gonna happen this week, because I don't see this week a lot of managers triple captaining Haaland. So his effective ownership or his absolute ownership is not going to be more than 200%. And in that case, he's just a safe option. You are just protecting rank, you're not really gaining anything out of it. But in case if you want to do things a bit differently, in case if you have the heart to not captain Haaland against Wolves and maybe go for some other option, I think KDB is the next best bet, because he's playing the same fixture. There's a high chance that he starts, and he will be, fully rested. So I expect him to do well. He has a great record against Wolves as well. In case if you don't want to go for a Man City option, then is where I would probably see Kane. Yes, Kane also has a great fixture because it's Fulham. Fulham, they concede a lot of chances and they are conceding a lot of goals. And I think Tottenham are going to. I think it's going to be a good high scoring game, probably a 3-2, 2-2, something of that sort. So I expect Kane to do well, and I think he's the only player I'm kind of concerned of, or worried about, because I don't have Kane in this team, and Kane could do massive damage to at least my rank in this particular week. But I think in terms of captaincy, I would still probably not take a lot of risk. I think it's not a week to go very different, because we are quite certain that Haaland will start again. I mean, nothing is set in stone. Pep can absolutely smash us by benching Haaland and shattering all our plans for this week in terms of FPL. But I think Haaland is still the option to go for. I sold Edward and got Ferguson for this week. Oh, so you've already done the. I'm assuming you've already done the free transfer then. Ferguson is still okay. I mean, you can play Ferguson for most weeks. I'm still not 100% sure in terms of his minutes. He started playing for Brighton, or at least consistently for Brighton, very recently, and we still don't know if that's going to continue. There is Welbeck as well. I mean, we've seen that they can play together as well, so that's probably not a problem. But I still feel, if you are okay with him getting less minutes, or slightly lesser minutes generally, because see, this is the third striker spot. There are a lot of options. Of course, I'm not going to count Martial right now, but then there's Tony, there's Mitrovic. You can maybe go for some other options. Of course, there are a lot of teams who have Kane as their third striker, because they probably have gone very heavy at the top. So there are a lot of options in terms of going for a third striker, and if you really want to utilize it, he may not be the best option. But if you're okay benching him for some tougher games, because he's not really costing you a lot of money, right? And he's a lot better than a lot of options who are around that 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, that sort of a price range. In terms of strikers, we do not really have a lot of options there. So I think it's fine. But yeah, I mean, it's a risk because you don't have Tony, and I think Tony's ownership is going to be quite high this week. and he's a great fixture as well. So yeah, not a very easy game week, but yeah, I think let's see what happens. Hey Soumya, you've shared your team. Soma, I hope I've got that name right. Kepa, White, Trippier, Botman, KDB, Martinelli, Rashford, Almiron, Mitrovic, Tony Haaland, saving the free transfers. Looks pretty good. I don't think there's a need to make any transfers here. I mean, we always undervalue the importance of getting an additional week, getting some more information, and making it, making a much more informed move. FPL as a game, because we have to play it. I mean, if you're a slightly serious manager, if you're maybe not a very casual manager who's just logs on for like 7, 8 times, maybe 15, 20 times in the whole season, and you just make some changes, etc. If you're slightly more engaged and if you're playing it every week, you always have that urge of making a move, going for a certain player, because you always get some more information, right? And how are we doing these moves? How are we making these transfers? Is because of what we are seeing on the football pitch. It's because of the outside information that we're getting, and we always have that itch to go for a certain option, go for a certain pick. So the idea of saving a free transfer is very undervalued in general, and I think it has to be given a little bit more importance, because a lot of times FPL is also about patience, and about getting the slightly medium to long term picture and foreseeing what can happen, and then making certain calls. Of course, that's not the only way to play FPL. You can absolutely go berserk and smash it every week by going for certain moves, going for certain transfers that could be great for that particular week. But then again, that's probably not how I play FPL or how I think about FPL. Will Andrew still feature in spite of having 5 yellow cards? I don't see a suspension there, so I think he should be fine. There were no conversations or talks about him getting suspended, so I think he should be okay. Mount to Saka or roll. It's not a transfer that is required this week. It's a good move still, because even Saka can do well against Man United. There's nothing telling us that United are absolutely gonna keep a clean sheet and Arsenal cannot score at home. So both are tough fixtures, both are tricky games, both can blank, both can return. One of them can return. It's very tricky to call, but it's not an immediate move to make this week. I mean, if you still have some faith, or maybe you just wanna, maybe you have faith in Chelsea scoring against that bad Liverpool defense. I know it's a home game for Liverpool, so Liverpool might be okay, but I still don't have a lot of faith in Liverpool. So you can do it this week, but again, I don't necessarily see it as a move that you have to make it. I had two free transfers, Gordon Ferguson, and he's a player who's getting decent minutes. Yes, recently he's getting decent minutes. You're saving one for next week, which is absolutely fine. That also kind of puts you in a good spot of having two free transfers next week, so I think that should be okay. In terms of Ferguson getting minutes, I'll just quickly check how much is he getting. He has been getting majority minutes, that is for sure. And at 4.5, you really can't ask for more, because I mean, yeah, he's got 3 returns in the last 3 games. Plus, he's got about 160 odd minutes in the last 3 games. So that's still decent. But yeah, I just don't expect him to play 90 minutes. That again might change because of certain injuries, because of maybe fixtures, etc. But right now, I think at 4.5, it's okay. You're not really taking a lot of risk. If you have some additional money, you can always make those jumps and make those moves. So I think that should be fine. In fact, Ferguson was also in my thinking. Uh, for this week or even next week. But now, considering the fact that Leeds could also double in game week 22, especially if that replay game doesn't happen, I think Nonto is somebody that I'm looking at. And in terms of my moves next week, because right now I don't think so I'm gonna make any moves this week. I'm gonna save the free transfer here. But for next week, I think considering that I have 3.1 million in the bank, I can easily go for somebody from an Almiron to let's say a Bruno Fernandes, for example, and then I can downgrade a Mitrovic to a Nonto. I think that option is also there. So I'll also be kind of in the same boat where I have a third striker, which is quite a cheap striker, definitely more expensive than Ferguson, but yeah, I mean that optionality is there. I'm just trying to maximize the gains, because yes, one of the games is against Man United, and Leeds might not score against Man United. There's always a chance of that happening. It's a derby at the end of the day, so anything can happen. But yeah, I mean, a double could still do very well. Because I don't think so. A lot of people are aware, first of all, of this option. Secondly, I don't think so. A lot of people will consider him, because if let's say they're going for somebody from Leeds, let's say they're considering a Leeds option, maybe they go for Rodrigo. Somerville, Sinistera, these are options. Somerville, of course, is injured. Sinistera could also be an option if maybe people are looking at a different player. So I don't think so. A lot of people will go to Nonto, but let's see. I think that could be a potential route for next week. Hold to sell Doherty for a -4. Depends on which player you're selling him for. If it's an Arsenal player, I would do it. If it's maybe Shaw, I'll do it. If you somehow don't have Trippier, I'll still do it. But yeah, for the other options, maybe a Man City option, maybe you know, maybe a Brighton option or somebody else. I probably won't do it. For Botman, it's tricky because I think I still do it because Newcastle are still a great defense. I mean, they're the best defense in the league. Doherty, we always talk about Doherty's attacking output, and he can give us attacking returns. But I I mean, do we really see that happening week on week? Because there's a lot of conversation, and I have also written it a lot in a lot of blogs earlier that we are getting Doherty like James, like Chilwell, maybe like a Trent or a Robertson this year as well. We're getting them for their attacking output, but how often have they given us attacking output? That's the question, right? So I think we can back the slightly more safer defense, more tighter defense. I still feel Newcastle are a better defense than as compared to the what they are doing in attack. And I think Botman at that kind of price point, it's a great option to be very honest. Definitely a lot better in terms of clean sheet potential than Spurs and then Doherty. I don't expect him to score or give us attacking returns, but we just never know. I mean, one odd free goal here and there, maybe an assist somewhere. I think we can get definitely lucky there. But yeah, for a -4, I'll do it. At least in the next 2 to 3 weeks, fixtures are decent. I mean, they can still keep clean sheets. And again, similar to what I said earlier, just be mindful of the fact that they might blank against Brighton in Game Week 25. So Game Week 25 is a fixture against Brighton, and that could be a blank game week because let's assume, or assuming the best case scenario that Man United and Newcastle they win their EFL Cup games. So that blank that week would be the final of the EFL Cup game between Man United and Newcastle, and then that will be a blank. So just be mindful of that. If you already have Trippier, then there will be two defenders that you won't have unless you have a Bueno or maybe somebody who's gonna play absolutely there or gonna be in your 11. I think you should be fine. And I personally don't think that a lot of managers would have 11 options. Even if they do, I think a lot of managers will be taking a lot of hits for it. So I don't think so. It'll be a huge problem. But yeah, for Doherty, I think I'll make the move. 4 games, 2 goals, 2 assists for 4.5. I mean, yeah. I mean, what else can go wrong, right? Apart from him maybe getting transferred from the team or maybe getting injured and all that stuff. I still feel it's fine. Can we captain Trippier or De Bruyne? I mean, captaining Trippier is a legit conversation. I don't think so. A lot of people generally consider it, but I think when we see in terms of absolute points, I don't think so. Trippier is very far. Right, Trippier is 133. I think is the third highest scorer in FPL right now. And the only issue with going with captaincy on a Trippier is that there's always a chance that because of a mistake, because of an error, because of not even Karen Trippier, Newcastle could lose that clean sheet because of a free goal. I mean, something that we saw with Man United, Crystal Palace as well. That free kick goal was absolutely crazy. I mean, who would have expected that to go in? But because of those kind of possibilities, there's always a chance that Trippier loses the clean sheet. Now, when he loses the clean sheet, there's very less potential for him to get bonus points, right? Because not every game is he gonna get those attacking returns. In spite of getting an attacking return, he might not, come into the bonus, depending on match state and what the opponent is doing. And that's where the risk is, and that's where I feel not a lot of people, sound people generally consider it. But he's been giving us a lot of points, so conversation definitely worth happening. But I don't see him as it's a very risky option, and you'll be scared most of the times, which probably isn't a great thing when we are considering FPL on a week on week basis. Kevin De Bruyne, I still feel Haaland is the better option. Haaland will be getting more big chances. He will be getting more opportunities to score because he's playing a lot closer to goal. We've already seen this season that Kevin De Bruyne is playing more of a creator sort of role because there is an elite finisher in Haaland this season. Man City didn't have that earlier, and I think a lot of the attacking impetus was kind of shared between the likes of Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden. Then you had Mahrez, Sterling, and of course Kevin De Bruyne. So I don't see that happening because now City have a focal point, and they can make a lot of their plays, which again has already been happening, and we've already seen that. And he's been doing. I mean, KDB has been doing great from an attacking sense, especially when we talk about the creativity output. But then again, he will still be getting assists even if it's a forward. He's getting one more point in that assist. Plus, I think what we've seen from the past, Haaland has the potential to score a hat trick in any game against any side, right? So yeah, I think if the option is between Haaland and these two, I still go Haaland. But if the option is between these two, in separately, for example, Trippier and De Bruyne, I think I'll still prefer De Bruyne just because of the fact that Trippier is a risky pick, considering that the clean sheet can be lost anytime. I understand that he has a lot of attacking potential, but I still feel KDB is the better pick here. But I think overall, in terms of captaincy, if I'm captaining or if I'm looking at captains this week, I think KDB is definitely an option. But you can go for Kane, you can go for Tony. I mean, even Mitrovic as an outside shot is not really a bad option, to be very honest. Got Haaland, Mitrovic, and Martial. Is Tony the best Martial replacement? I think he is for now. There's still a possibility of a blank happening in gaming 25. So I think that aside, he still has probably the better fixtures among all the other forwards. As mentioned earlier, you can maybe go for Ferguson, but I mean, it's not really an eye to eye comparison or apple to apple comparison because they are at a very different price point. So and the output that we're probably getting from Tony on a consistent basis because of the fact that how his position is in the team and how he plays, I think it still makes more sense to go for somebody like a Tony because I think he's the main man. He's going to score goals. He will be on penalties as well. And in general, I think he's the talisman for the Brentford team. So I think he's probably the best option. Do you think Cancelo will do well going forward? Looks like City might power through with clean sheets for the rest of the season, like every other season. I mean, that could absolutely happen. But I just feel Cancelo, he looks a little bit off in terms of how he's been playing, especially when we were talking about the inverted fullback role and then how he was adapting into it. Pep has slightly changed the system as well, and he's Cancelo's just looked off it. I don't see a way where he starts every game all of a sudden and then he becomes nailed. Of course, that can absolutely happen because a consistent set of games, consistent set of run where Cancelo is doing well. I think Pep really likes his backline at least to be very solid and very stable, which has not happened this season, and that's why he's chopping and changing and going all over the place. Of course, with the change in strike structure as well, comes that slight change in edge, for example. But I think it could happen, but I still feel we'll probably have to look at some more games and understand how Man City are doing defensively because attack, I don't see a problem in their attack at all, right? But they are conceding a lot of goals. Their numbers suggest that they probably shouldn't concede those chances or shouldn't concede those goals, and they probably have been a bit unlucky because of some crazy finishing or some very low XG or low potential chances which were converted into goals, and that might not continue for a very long time. That might just be like a small phase that's probably is happening. But yeah, right now it's difficult to sell. If I'm looking at options, for example, I still feel maybe Stones, or if we see that Laporte is now starting, consistently, especially in the Premier League, I think those will be certain directions that I look at. Generally trying to, and that's again my personal thought. I'm generally trying to avoid the white players, the white defenders from Man City because there will be a lot of risk. There will be a lot of rotation. We have already seen that Pep is not afraid to make changes even at halftime. So if Man City are leading, if they are comfortably leading by 2 or 3 goals, a certain option might just get substituted at halftime, and we probably won't even get the clean sheet there. So I think because that risk, I can even avoid a Man City defender even till gaming 23. If I'm probably looking at a defender, I think Arsenal defenders are probably the one to prioritize at the moment. Is Botman the best Cancelo replacement then? I have Shaw, Cancelo, Trippier, White, Bueno. If you have all these options, which I think I also have, of course, I don't have Cancelo, but I think if you're looking to replace Cancelo, I think Botman looks like the most safest option, looks like the most obvious option because there are options like Aurier from Nottingham Forest and there's Mings from Aston Villa. Then you have Doherty, for example, I think who a lot of people are even considering. I know, I understand that Tottenham have just lost very badly to Man City, but they are considering for the attacking threat that he possesses. But yeah, I think out of all these options, even the Brighton options, right? Brighton are still a much better attack as compared to what they're doing in defense. They are still conceding goals. They're still conceding chances, and I think that's how it's gonna be for at least the near future. So I think if you are going a bit safer, or if you just don't want to take that headache of nailing that one spot, because I think that spot is the most trickiest spot to nail. I mean, if you're looking at a budget option, I think Bueno is absolutely nailed because he's cheap. He's not gonna give you any headaches in terms of maybe starting, because I think he looks like a 90-minute man for most weeks now, and he's cheap, right? So even if he doesn't start, even if he doesn't play, you might want him to play in game week 25 because that's a blank. But in general, it's not really gonna hurt you because we're probably not gonna use him for most weeks. So yeah, I think now that I'm talking about it, thinking about it again and again, I think Botman still feels or looks like the way to go. Great job on the Maris transfer. I mean, yeah, that was a risk. Of course, that was a big risk because we've seen that in the past that we've gotten players like Maris, we've gotten players like Grealish, Foden, and all those certain players, and they've not started games, especially in a double game week. We already saw what happened with Martial uh, with United last week only. So I think it was a big risk, big punt, and I mean, I was not. I was a bit conflicted in terms of Man City winning that game because as a United fan, I really wanted Tottenham to win it. But yeah, when Mahrez came up, when I saw Man City dominating Tottenham, and when Mahrez actually came up with those goals, those assists, etc., and it did feel a bit satisfying because it was a huge punt, and especially with me and my FPL seasons so far, Mahrez a punt and Mahrez has generally never worked. So I think yeah, I mean, just happy and just yeah, just let's see what happens this week, because if he doesn't start this week, again, it could be a problem. But yeah, let's see. Brighton might blank in some week soon. That's game week 25 now. Excuse me. That also is a possibility. Again, it's not a confirmed thing. The United Newcastle blank is confirmed if they win. So that's the caveat, or the asterisk there. In terms of Brighton, of course, if Newcastle are blanking, Brighton will blank. But then, depending on what happens to Brighton in the FA Cup games, let's say if they lose to Liverpool, for example, there's a high possibility that one of the Brighton games, maybe against Crystal Palace, that could be scheduled or rescheduled in gaming 25. So ultimately, they might not have a blank game week in gaming 25. That'll be a bit weird and a bit odd because I think everybody's kind of avoiding Brighton options, the Brighton players. In fact, a lot of managers are avoiding Brighton options because of the fact that they might have a blank in gaming 25, which may or may not happen. So I think, yeah, let's see. Still a lot of unknowns. And I think that is where you feel it's probably good to just be safe and not really take a lot of chances, not really take a lot of risk, and just don't make any moves which are probably hurried moves. Thank you again for being a part of the stream. I know it's been a while that I've been or I did a stream. Of course we did it last week, but yeah, I mean, I think 2 or 3 weeks I was not well. I mean, it was a tough time because was not really feeling well and wanted to do a stream every week. Was trying to get in videos, etc., or whatever I could. But yeah, it's just good to be back. But yeah, I mean, next week it's still again a long break, so let's see. Does it make sense to bring in Bruno for United double and move him out before the blank? -4, yes. But do you consider this a high reward move? I think it is. So something like a Mahrez, of course, he has to score points for it to work. But I think him and Rashford are the options to go for if you're looking at United double in terms of the attack. I think it's a short term move. Could be a slightly long term move as well because United, they have good fixtures. I mean, when we look at the fixtures, at least in the next 7-8 weeks, I don't see a tough game apart from maybe Liverpool by game week 26, and we still don't know what's going to happen with Liverpool in game week 26. Whether their defense is going to get improved, whether it's going to get even shittier. I mean, we still don't know that. Arsenal this week is a tough game, so it maybe doesn't make sense this week, though he can still score against Arsenal, right? And this is where you kind of assess and understand whether you want to be that risky manager who's probably going to take a risk, because it's very easy for a Bruno Fernandes to blank, and then you'll be hitting your head understanding or thinking or saying that why did I make the move, because it was a tough fixture anyway. But yeah, it definitely makes sense to get him for the double in 22, and then uh, maybe take him out before the blank, and replace him with different options. So that is definitely the case, and I think it makes a lot more sense to kind of do that. Uh, it's a high reward move, it's not very risky, because I feel a lot of managers, because the fact that a lot of people have a lot of money in the bank. I've seen teams where people have 4, 5, 6, even 7 million in the bank. I've literally seen teams like that. And I think in that scenario, it's very easy to upgrade an Andres Pereira. It's very easy to upgrade maybe a Trossard, for example, maybe even an Almiron. I mean, if you have these options, if you probably don't trust Martinelli, I think it's very easy to then upgrade these specific players and go for Bruno. take him out before the blank and then maybe go for a different option, because by the time we'll have more information about who's blanking, who's doubling in the coming game weeks, and I think that'll be really helpful. Is Mitrovic done for the season? What are your plans with him? I don't think so. He's done for the season. I still feel he's gonna. I mean, there's a very good run from game week 29 to 33, where there's Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton, Leeds, Villa. I think that is a great stretch of games where we can definitely use him. Even right now, the next two fixtures are Tottenham, Chelsea. On paper, they're very tough games, but then it's Fulham. They've been doing well. I think they are in form. Mitrovic is kind of a troll player because he ends up missing these penalties and not giving FPL managers a lot of points. But I think he's definitely dodging those points. I think it's going to come back to him sometime, and he can absolutely score against Tottenham and Chelsea. After that, it's Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Wolves, Brentford. So it's not really a very tough. I mean, it's a slightly tricky run on paper, but I don't think so. He's going to blank in most of these games. I, in fact, feel that he's got probably going to score in most of these games. But because the fact that a lot of managers would probably try to get in double game week players, and Fulham might not have a double game week very soon, I think in the near future, a lot of managers would be done with Mitrovic. But I don't necessarily feel or believe that he's done for the season, because there are two separate windows where we can get Mitrovic. And I think where a lot of people might be taking him out. So his net ownership is also going to get a little down, and that is where you can get maximum gains. So I think that is looking like the direction in terms of Mitrovic. In terms of my plans, I feel if Leeds have that double and if United, of course, get that double, then the plan next week would be to go Almiron to Bruno. That would be one transfer, and I think the next move would probably be Mitrovic to a Nonto. I don't expect a lot of people to make that move, and I think that is where we can get a bit lucky, get a really nice differential in there, because Nonto could do fine. I mean, let's see. He's probably the best option, and also there are not many. I mean, that's the problem, right? They're not. Of course, we all consider Darwin Nunes, and we had the Nunes theory, where all of us were kind of waiting for his chances to kind of go inside and get more goals, because he was missing so many big chances. I've not seen, maybe after Werner, I don't think so. I've seen any player missing these many big chances and good chances. I mean, the opportunities that Nunes has got, this would have been a very different conversation if even half of those chances have gotten in, and we're probably looking at somebody who's in the top five, top six points for forwards this season. I think the respect for Nunes would be a lot different at that point of time. But yeah, you have Tony, who's been performing well. So there's Tony, there's Kane, there's Haaland. I think these are the three options that have been performing consistently. Of course, Haaland is not going anywhere from any team. A lot of managers already have Kane as their second option. And third is where it gets a bit tricky, because you have Tony. Mitrovic again. He's not been consistent over the last 7-8 games. He's got a 15-point haul. Then he's got 6, a 7, then a 5. Then he got 0 points against Newcastle. That was a troll week for him. And yeah, we can't really trust likes of Havertz, Wilson, Watkins, of course Nunes, as I already mentioned. And yeah, I mean, they're not really any consistent options. We generally have gotten those windows of maybe 2 to 3 or maybe even 4 game weeks where we've seen a certain option emerging and doing really well. But then after that window kind of goes away, then you're left in a rut again, because you'll have to figure out what to do with that option 1 or 2 games, and we probably would lose patience with that third striker spot, because again, there's a lot of room to wiggle in there. So I think right now he and Tony, I think, are the ones to kind of compete for that third spot. What are your plans for Martinelli? That This is an interesting one. I think Martinelli is definitely on the chopping block. Maybe not till gaming 23. Maybe we'll try to get in the double up on Martinelli and Odegaard. I think that could be an option. We can let go of Rashford. It's a risky move again, because Rashford has been in great form. So maybe we'll change Bruno to to a Saka. I mean, those can also be moves for game week 23. That's what I have in mind. But I think Martinelli till game week 23 looks okay. Again, I don't know what's gonna happen. Whether Trossard is suddenly gonna come in and start playing on the left side when Martinelli is now getting benched. That could absolutely happen, but I still feel a couple of weeks, maybe at least one more week. I don't think so. Trossard is going to start at all this week. So it's definitely going to be Martinelli. Next week is going to be slightly more interesting, because then Trossard would have had some time with the team, a few training sessions in there as well, and I think there is a possibility that Trossard takes that spot. Maybe not starts every game. Maybe there's a lot of rotation in there. And I think a couple of weeks we might just change Martinelli to an Odegaard. That also is a possibility. So there are two or three different ideas or different directions I can take with Martinelli, and depending on again what information we're getting, depending on whether he's starting games first of all and how he's playing in those games, I think based on that we can take that call. How are you liking United with Eric Ten Hag at the wheel? I mean, you can look at the smile, right? Super happy, very disappointed, or I mean, to be honest, heartbroken that we couldn't win the Palace game. But Man City was heights of emotions. I mean, I have not, I don't remember, at least in the near future, or in the near past, sorry, I don't remember a time where I've cried. I literally cried after the game, and I think it was a lot of pent up emotions in terms of United, you know, being on the back foot for so long and not really doing well, especially getting battered against Man City. It just felt so good. I mean, there is no feeling that can possibly, or no words that can possibly explain that feeling. It was really magical because didn't expect that sort of a win to, to that sort of a performance. I think before the win, I think that sort of a performance to happen, and post that in the final whistle, it was a dream. I'll be honest, it was a dream. It didn't feel like I'm seeing that United, especially after almost a decade, as you're rightly saying, right? After Sir Alex Ferguson, haven't seen United play this well, and let's see what happens again. It's too early to, generally take one game, one fixture in mind and start making assumptions about it. What from whatever we've seen this season, it's been slow and steady, but it's been slow and steady progress. Especially, I think after Ronaldo is gone, and I again, I don't want to get into that conversation, but especially after him leaving, I think it's been a lot more freer. And there are a lot of things that, of course, Ten Hag has to manage. Still, we still need a proper striker. I don't think so. Weghorst is a solution. Again, let's see what happens with Weghorst. Can't really jump on the gun too soon. He might be a very shrewd, very good signing, but I still don't feel he's a long term option, right? So we still need that number nine, and I think with that, plus what Ten Hag has been doing with the academy, plus what he's been doing with the club, plus how he's handled situations with certain players, and yeah, I mean, just the natural vibe and the natural feel of the club looks a lot better. I'm still a bit disappointed regarding the window in January. I was still expecting. I mean, we've seen we can't even talk about Chelsea because Chelsea are just buying players left, right, and center. I mean, the volume of players that Chelsea are buying is absolutely insane and absolutely crazy. They might just end up with 5 or 10 more players before the window ends, and I won't be surprised, to be very honest. We've also seen teams like Arsenal, etc., now bidding for players, getting in players, and it just feels a bit frustrating that we have not been that active in the window. But yeah, still about 9-10 days to go, and let's see what happens. Hey Brian, hello to you. Haaland triple captain wasn't great for me. It was not great for a lot of people. I'll be honest. I don't wanna spoil your thing, but I think I was a little happy that he didn't do well because he was not my triple captain. But yeah, from a week where he's facing United, Tottenham, I mean the chances of him blanking against both teams is of course there. The chances of him doing really well against both teams is also there because he's Erling Haaland, and the form that he's shown, you would probably back him to do well. But yeah, I think let's see what happens in gaming 23. But at least from what I had in mind in terms of the thinking for not going for Haaland triple captain was because the fixtures were a bit tricky. United are still a lot better defense, and I think Haaland just struggled to get involved in both games. In spite of Man City scoring 5 goals in those two fixtures, he's just got one attacking return, which probably you would not expect considering that he was getting majority returns and majority goals for Man City, right? He just struggled to get involved in both games. He did end up getting a goal against Tottenham, but yeah, I can't say unlucky because there was always that hard conversation of maybe not going for him right now because just solely because of the difficulty of those fixtures. But yeah, and I was actually very surprised that how Tottenham played in the first half. They were leading 2-0, and Man City just came out as a different team in the second half. And you were kind of expecting Haaland to get more involved, considering that Man City was scoring left, right, and center. But yeah, it just didn't happen. I honestly feel, I mean, I honestly feel that it's a very overrated chip, triple captain. The gains are not really very high. If you compare it with the bench boost, right? I know it's very difficult to nail the bench boost as well, but when you compare it with the bench boost, you have a option, or at least you have a chance of having at least 3 or 4 players who can give you points. And here we have one option who's gonna give you, because see, now the fact is that everybody's gonna captain Haaland for most weeks, right? So the absolute gain that you're getting from a triple captain is just one set of additional points, if that's making any sense. So you're not really gaining a lot. Maybe if I, as a normal captain for Haaland, if he scores 10 points, I'm getting 20. You probably would be getting 30, right? So that's 10 additional points. But when you look at the bench boost chip, that could be a lot more powerful, especially when we're looking at double game weeks and all that stuff. The free hit, of course, looks a lot more powerful. Wildcard, of course, is a different chip altogether. I just feel it's a very overvalued, or yes, of course, when you have players like Salah, in the past who've gotten those massive 20-30 point haul, but I personally never expected this game week to, or these two set of fixtures to be that high scoring for Haaland, where he's going to score about 20-30 points. At least that is something that I'm very comfortable, talking about or thinking, because that was never in my mind. Just a more macro question. I'm 45 points away from the top 100K. Do you think it's too early to go for differentials? 45K is not a lot, considering you go for somebody like a Mahrez. I mean, of course, I'm talking about differentials, but let's say you go for somebody like a Mahrez, maybe a Nonto who suddenly comes up with a 10-12 point haul, or any other differential. I don't think so. You necessarily have to go out of the way to start getting in differentials. If you feel that a particular player has a great game, his team is doing well, especially in attack. Because see, generally with defenders, the upside is generally low, because most of the premium attacking defenders, they haven't done really well. And we have teams like Arsenal and Newcastle who have kept a lot of clean sheets, and that's one of the biggest reasons they have those points. It's not because of the attacking returns that defenders from Arsenal and Newcastle are getting. It's absolutely clean sheet points. So the upside is limited. So you don't necessarily have to go for differentials there in that spot in defense. But yeah, I mean, if you feel that you have an attacker who's in form, whose team is doing really well, and you can punt on him for 1 week or maybe a couple of weeks, because that particular option has a good stretch of games, and you can probably take a shout. Go for it, absolutely go for it. There's always a chance of getting lucky and gaining a lot many points, because if you won't take a slight bit of risk, I mean, how will you gain points, right? Because a lot of managers have similar teams at the moment. Captaincy is out of the window because it's Erling Haaland for most weeks. So you don't necessarily have to go out of the way and start getting differentials just because the fact that have decent fixtures, etc. And maybe the team is not even doing well. Maybe the player is not even doing well. Maybe he's not even a 180-minute person, or a player who's probably playing 90 minutes each week. So you don't have to do that. But if you see a window, just trust your gut and take a chance. If it doesn't work out, you can absolutely, and of course, take that player out in a couple of weeks, and maybe go back to a more normal state. Going for Trippier's captain, any suggestions from your side? Very risky, to be honest. It's a Palace home game. Palace at home are generally a lot better. So I mean, I can't say with certainty that Palace are going to score, but yeah, I mean, Trippier captaincy, as I mentioned earlier, just because of the fact that he may lose that clean sheet, and he's probably not going to get an attack return every week. I think it's a massive risk, because as I mentioned earlier, if he loses the clean sheet, I think it'll be very difficult for Trippier to get into those bonus points, because when we've seen him over the last 6-7 game weeks, where he scored 11, 12, 12, then a couple of 8 pointers and a 9 pointer, a 7 pointer as well, all those games had clean sheets in them, right? And that's one of the major reasons he was getting into the bonus points, because over the last 6-7 game weeks, he's either got 2 or 3 bonus points in each game, right? And the clean sheet is a huge part of that. He's not gotten attacking returns. He's got 3 assists, but I don't think so that's enough to give you 3 bonus points, especially when you lose the clean sheet. So big risk. If you're okay, if you have the heart to not go for Haaland, or maybe a KDB, maybe a Kane, etc., who probably are better options according to me, then absolutely do it. But I personally, I think it's a huge risk for this week. Rodrigo or Mitoma. I think right now, if I'm looking at one, again, we still don't know if Leeds are going to double in game week 22. It is looking like a possibility, but it's still not a confirmed thing. But yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at both options right now at this moment, before the deadline, before the game week 21 deadline, I think Mitoma looks like the better option. He's been in great form. He's been getting a lot more minutes. I still feel both attacks are really good, but Brighton are possibly the best attack right now in the league, especially when we talk about current form. Of course, we're not talking about the player quality or the points that Brighton are scoring in general. But if you look at the current form, I think players like Mitoma and March, they are the ones to go for because they're doing really, really well. So if I'm looking at one option, I think it has to be Mitoma. Has slightly better numbers as well. So I think you pack yourself with better stats as well. Kepa or Sanchez for this week. I mean, if I'm going for, if this was a conversation between Kepa and maybe Ward, I'll probably go for Kepa. But Sanchez is slightly. I mean, Sanchez also is facing Leicester, so again, I still feel Liverpool are definitely gonna do well in attack. Whether they score or not depends on a lot of factors. But I think Kepa has the potential to make more saves, and if by any chance, if Liverpool continue to miss their big chances and continue to not score goals, maybe he's not score enough goals, Kepa could end up with 9-10 points. So if we look at the potential, I still feel there's more potential in Kepa. And I know I'm saying this and it feels a bit counterintuitive because it's Liverpool at the end of the day, and they're still a very good attack. But I think I still feel Kepa has more potential, in spite of Liverpool being a better attack than Leicester at the moment. So yeah, that's where we are at. There's still about half an hour to go. I'll probably end the stream a little earlier today. So yeah, do let me know if you have any more questions. There's a lot of work that I have to do today, and I have to catch up on a lot of stuff as well. Going on a holiday in a couple of days. In fact, not a couple of days. In fact, going tomorrow. So need to do a little bit prep there as well. But yeah, let me know if you have any more questions, anything that you want to check, anything that you want to ask. Please feel free to add those in the comments. Almiron to March, not a necessary move. If you feel that Almiron is not going to do well, if you're thinking that Almiron is probably not the option for you, you do this move this week, but you don't have to do it. Almiron still can do well, still has decent fixtures. I personally would say that you can hold Almiron for one more week, but if you want to go a bit aggressive, I think definitely do the move. It's absolutely fine. You don't listen to what other people are saying or what I am saying. I think the aggressive play is to definitely go for March. If you want some more information, if you are planning to maybe make two moves and save a transfer by making two moves, maybe next week you go for a double United attack. Maybe you have one United option right now and you want to go for two more players. Maybe you want to bring in Arsenal options. I mean, if you have that sort of a thinking, then I think don't make the move, because I think you'll probably need that one transfer, and that one transfer could be a lot more valuable. But if you're pretty set in that regard, I think, and if you want to go aggressive, I think Almiron to March is fine. Should I sell David here and get Bruno for the double game week? If he's blocking your Bruno move, I think you can. And I think for that, saving a free transfer makes a lot more sense, because taking out David here and I mean taking out David here and getting in Bruno even for a hit, I think it's okay. It just sounds stupid, sounds weird, but I still feel because of the potential of Bruno Fernandes, and I think because of the fact that United can still lose a clean sheet here and there, I think there is still value in that move. But yeah, if that is what you're planning to do and Davide is stopping you from getting Bruno, I think save the Almiron to March move. Use those two free transfers next week and make the move next week. Bench 3, Shaw, White, Mitrovic, Rodrigo, me, Rashford, Martinelli. So I think out of Shaw and White, I'll bench Shaw. I mean, I'll probably even bench Rodrigo because I think Brentford are a much better defense than what Leeds are. So I think two options from whatever I've seen right now, it's probably going to be Shaw and Rodrigo. And then again, if I'm benching one more option, I think I'll probably bench me as well, because I still feel there could be a goal from Leeds, and I think we might not be able to keep a clean sheet. Rashford, Martinelli, they're playing each other. It might be a very low scoring game. Can be. There's absolutely a chance. But I mean, you'll still back the attacker here, right? And you'll back the premium team attackers to do really well, because they have the potential. Both players, Rashford and Martinelli, they have the potential to hurt teams on the counter, even on in when they're playing in having possession, right? Martinelli can still do well. I mean, there we saw last time around what happened. Martin did end up scoring a goal, which was I think offside. It was ruled for offside. So I think if I'm benching three, it'll be Shaw, Rodrigo, and me. I think those will be the options that I'll be benching. You don't have to play. See, because it's Rodrigo against Brentford, a slightly better defense, and it's me against a slightly better attack. Considering that Leeds do end up scoring a lot of goals just because of the fact, or just because how they play, right? So I think that's where I'll be looking at, or where I'll be going. Cool. As do let me know if you have any more questions. We'll probably stick around for a couple of more minutes. I'm not doing any moves. I think it's gonna be a slightly boring sort of a week where we've not made any moves. Last week was very interesting, of course, because we got the Maris Hall really really well. You got the Cancelo image wrong. Yeah, I have got it wrong. I just realized. Uh, it's not Cancelo. Sorry, so my bad. It's Botman. I think I did forget to change it. Yeah. So it's not Cancelo. It's Botman who's in the team. Because the picture is right, the photo of the player is right, the name is wrong. The image is not wrong. The name is wrong. So yeah, it's Botman there. But yeah, thank you so much for pointing it out. Cool. We'll just quickly check at Twitter as well if there's some more information. Maybe there's something that we need to check. Something that might help. Doesn't look like. I mean, it's all pretty quiet on Twitter as well because of the fact that it's not a double game week. It's not a week where there are a lot of 50-50 decisions. I generally feel it's going to be a low scoring week because a lot of the good teams are playing each other, and I think not every fixture, every player, or every option is going to give you what you probably are expecting. Not every player would be getting clean sheets. I don't expect a lot of nil-nil draws to happen where both defenders are getting clean sheets, but both attackers and then blanking. So I think overall, I think it's going to be a low scoring game. Great, guys. I think that'll be all for this week. A very short stream. I don't think so. There's a lot much to discuss. In case if you don't want to make a transfer, in case if you don't feel that your team needs a free transfer or team needs a player that you don't have, save the free transfer. You can absolutely save it. Have two free transfers for next week because there's a high possibility of Man United and Leeds doubling in game week 22. I think it's pretty much certain. I don't think so. There's again anything can happen, but yeah, there's a high possibility of that double happening, and you probably might need those two free transfers to make the switch. Or if you're just using the one free transfer, you can use that additional transfer as two free transfers in game week 23 as well. So just be mindful of that. But again, if you want to go aggressive, if you're lagging behind in your mini leagues, if you are very far off from your rivals, etc., I think in that case you can get in Brighton players. You can absolutely do that. You can get in Odegaard as well. I know it's a tough fixture, but I still feel players like Odegaard, players like Saka, players like Rashford, even Bruno Fernandes. I mean, these players can absolutely do well. Is Luis a good option from Man City side? I don't think so, to be very honest. He may start lot many games than we expect. But first of all, Man City are not keeping a lot of clean sheets. Secondly, there's a lot of rotation in the white spots, and in spite of Lewis playing really really well, a couple of bad games and he might just lose his place. So considering the fact that there are so many options that Pep has, so many routes that Pep can go to, I don't think so is a more safe option. If you're looking at a safer option, maybe you go for Stones or Akanji, someone like that. But yeah, I don't think so. Lewis is it's also kind of blocking your you know maybe your second or third Man City attacker option, because if Man City attack is doing really well, I mean, I know not a lot of people have entertained this thought, but we can even look at Man City triple up in attack, right? So that also is a possibility. Is it worth selling Martinelli to Odegaard? Not this week for sure. If you have a free transfer, not this week again. If you have a free transfer in 22 or 23, you maybe do that. Otherwise, I don't think so. For now, I think it's definitely not for a hit. I mean, don't take a hit for this move, and don't make the move this week. But yeah, if you making this move in 22 or even 23, I think 23 is the better week to do it. And if you're making this move in 23, I think it's absolutely fine because in terms of how Odegaard has been playing, in terms of how Arsenal has been playing, he's been getting a lot of good chances. He's been playing really well. Martinelli again, there could be some risk with Martinelli considering the fact that there's Trossard now in the mix as well. So I think it makes sense, but not this week, not probably next week as well, and not even for a hit. Excuse me. I want to sell White and Shaw, but I want them for next week. So who should I play in one of them? Uh, don't sell both. Both are good options. Keep both. If you want to play one option, I personally think that White, there's a slight possibility that White might keep a clean sheet. Casemiro is not playing this game. I think it's going to be a big loss for us, for Man United, especially from a defensive point of view. And I think that is where we might lose in terms of, at least securing a clean sheet. So I think Arsenal are going to score. It's a home game for Arsenal. And that's the reason I'm personally playing White, and you can do the same. Danny Ings of Bamford. I mean, Bamford could have a double in 22. So from that point of view, I think he looks better. But I mean, both options are very very difficult to go for. Considering that you have options like Tony, Mitrovic, maybe a Nonto as well. I think if I'm looking at Leeds, I think Nonto could be a great pick. So I'll probably prefer not prefer any of them and maybe look at a different direction. Ings is also somebody who's I mean, you can't really trust Ings for 90 minutes, right? I mean, he's not played 90 minutes since game week 14, so that's a considerable amount of time. And I think there's always a chance that he always comes on as a sub and doesn't give you the points, doesn't have enough opportunity to make an impact and get a big haul, etc. So I think I'll avoid both, and I'll if I'm looking at one option, and if Leeds get a double, I think I'll be looking at Nonto. Is Cancelo playing a Foden? Is Cancelo playing a Foden? Uh, I mean, if you're asking about who's going to start this week, I expect. I mean, there's possibly a higher chance of Foden starting this week, considering that he didn't last time around. And I mean, Cancelo, it's a bit tricky with Cancelo. I personally think he's not going to start this week. So if I'm betting on one option to start this week, I think it's probably going to be Foden. Tony or Mitrovic, I think right now I like uh, Tony more, but Tony could have a possible blank game week in 25, and I think that's where Mitrovic slightly becomes a bit better. The fixtures are definitely better for Tony, and I think there's more potential in the Tony move. So I think overall, if you're looking at an option, I think Tony's probably the pick to go for right now. Yeah, I think that's where I will be at. Should I sell David here this week and get another goalkeeper so that next game week I can bring in Bruno and KDB out? I mean, you can save the move this week and make it next week. And if possible, I'll not try to take out KDB. I mean, if possible, if at all possible, I'll probably try to hold KDB and get in Bruno from a different route. But I understand you'll have to take out David De Gea because he may be blocking your third Man United attacker. But I still don't see that you have to make this move this week. I have both. Who should I start? If I'm starting one, I'll start Foden just because the fact that Cancelo is probably not nailed and Man City are not even keeping clean sheets. I know it's Wolves. Wolves are not really known for scoring a lot of goals, but it's a huge risk. I think. I mean, we've already seen that Cancelo or even Foden for that matter. I think they can even get substituted at halftime, right? So if you're taking a risk, then maybe go Cancelo, but I just feel Foden's the better pick. He's the attacker. He has more potential to give you better points. That's about it. Almiron to Odegaard a role. I mean, it's a good move to make if you already have a Martinelli, for example. I don't think so. You have to double up on Odegaard this week. You can probably make that move later on. But if you don't have any Arsenal players, I think it's a move to make. There's a chance, there's a possibility that in fact, a strong possibility that Newcastle are probably gonna blank in 25. Arsenal don't have that chance or don't have that possibility. So you probably make that move and if it's not for a hit and if you don't have anything else to do, I think it's fine to make the move this week. You have David De Gea and Ward as my. I mean, David De Gea is still okay. Ward, I mean, yeah, he's been hot and cold. He was in great form. Not long ago, and I think he's still okay. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to trust Leicester when we talk about getting clean sheets. So yeah, who should I put instead of Cancelo? I mean, if it's a transfer, I've already mentioned certain names. But if it's a player that you want to play in your 11, then I'll have to see your team or at least understand what your team is. But if you're trying to make a transfer here, you can look at Shaw. You can look at you basically can look at an Arsenal defender. You can look at a Newcastle defender. Those are the options to go for. But if it's who should be your playing 11 defender, then please share your team and I'll help you out. Is transferring an Arsenal midfield against Man United a good or bad idea? I mean, it's not a bad idea to be very honest because Arsenal are playing at home. They are a good team. They're in form. They have a good attack. So if you basically want to do the move, I think it's absolutely fine. There's no wrong notion about it. There's nothing wrong with it. You're basically setting up your team for game week 22, 23, and for the double in 23 as well, which I think should be okay. So The potential is definitely less because it's Man United and it's a good defense. But yeah, I mean, it's not the worst decision of all time. Should I keep Mitrovic or sell him for Tony? I was thinking about this move for a week now. Mm, I mean, again, if you have the United double or United trouble to get through, I think maybe just hold Mitrovic and or maybe you can just add your team here. Just write your team. If you don't want to write the full names, you can just write short names, etc., and I can help you out. But yeah, I mean, if there's a move in isolation, if disregard the United players or the move that you're making in terms of going for a United option, I think Mitrovic to Tony is fine. Mitrovic, but if you want to use that free transfer, because I still feel it's a bit tricky to see where you'll get that money from, because you're probably thinking of taking out Kevin De Bruyne, which I still feel is not the right way. But again, you can take Kevin De Bruyne out for 22 and then get him back for 23 when he's doubling. So that's also an option. But yeah, if you can share your team here, I think it'll be really really helpful. Yeah, I don't see any other updates that are happening. I already have Martinelli, but Almiron's XG has been poor recently, and I have the exact money for Odegaard this week. If you have the exact money, if this is what you want, I think you can do it. I think the move is fine. It's it's not a problem. I think it should be fine. See, because ultimately, if you get locked out, you'll probably have to make money, or you'll probably have to get that money from making an additional transfer, which again may be forced if you're not planning to make a move. So I think if you don't have anything else to do, I think it's absolutely fine. Cool, guys. Great. I think we'll call it a day here. Thank you so much again for joining. Thank you so much for joining the deadline stream. I hope, as always, I was able to help you out in terms of your transfers, in terms of your decisions, in terms of your thinking, in terms of what you're doing for this week and the upcoming game weeks. Uh, you shared your team, so we'll quickly look at the team here and we'll call it a day. David De Gea, Trippier, Botman, White. So we'll go slowly. David De Gea, Trippier, Botman White, which is fine. KDB, Almiron, Rashford. Just let me know how much money also you have in the bank. I think that'll be really helpful. Rashford, Martinelli, Kane, Haaland, Mitrovic. The bench is Ward, Shaw, Pereira, Bueno. Pretty much standard. Almiron out, March in. I'm assuming this is the move that you've. So is this the move that you've already made? Let me know if you've already taken out Almiron and. Okay, so you've not done that. So the move in isolation is absolutely fine. What is your plan for game week 22? How are you gonna if you are planning to get let's say a man United option, which is Bruno Fernandes, how are you gonna get him? Is the play here, and how much money? So 1.8, right? Mm, let's see. So the potential routes to get money is basically, if you do Almiron to March, there will be some money that you'll be getting in about. Then maybe you'll have about 2.7, maybe 2.6, 2.7 million, something around that range in terms of price. That's still not enough for you to get towards get towards the get towards the Bruno Fernandes. I think you'll probably have to downgrade Kane. That is one option. You can downgrade Kane, go for a different pick, maybe go for Tony at that point of time, and that get that additional money, keep KDB, and then upgrade uh, I think it's yeah, that's gonna be tricky. So you're gonna sell David De Gea and get another goalkeeper in, and get Bruno for KDB, but losing KDB is I mean that's the thing, right? So that's the dilemma that I think that's the problem there. So you'll have to. There's a certain element of risk involved because you're letting go of KDB, but I think if you want Bruno Fernandes, I think that's the only route out there, and I think that's how you do it. It's fine. I mean, take that one on the chin. If KDB does well, you're taking a risk by going Bruno Fernandes, but that's the more rank gain or more money move, right? Because the potential rank loss with KDB can be outset by the potential gain that you'll be getting from Bruno Fernandes, considering that he has a good double game week. So I think it's fine. You You basically make the move, one move this week, then you take a hit next. I think you'll have to take a hit next week and sell David De Gea, go for another keeper, and then upgrade Bruno, downgrade a KDB to a Bruno. I think that's the move that you'll probably have to make. If there was some additional money from elsewhere, or otherwise you do the move this week. Basically, you do Almiron out and March in this week, and then you downgrade Kane and upgrade. That, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, you can save the transfer. Let me hear me out. You can save the transfer this week. Basically, not make the move this week, and you can downgrade Kane next week. If you don't want, if you want Kane, then it's not a conversation at all. But if you are okay letting off Kane, then you basically downgrade Kane. You go for a cheaper option as your attacker, and then you basically upgrade Almiron to to a Bruno Fernandes. I think that, to me, that feels like a better option. But yeah, if you don't want to do that, I think there'll be some thinking required to do here, because there are a lot of there are a lot of directions or a lot of ways that you can do it. Underrated channel. Thank you so much for your lovely comment. I mean, I'm trying to do the best I can, and I hope all of this has been helpful and in some way or the other. Um, Bringing in Mitoma for Mount looks like a good move. Mount. I mean, it's just very difficult to trust Mount. I want to keep him for Liverpool. I want to keep him for this week, but I mean, if I'm going a bit aggressive, I think Mitoma is absolutely fine. Mount to Mahrez or Odegaard. Mount to Mahrez or Odegaard, and start Kepa versus Liverpool or Ward versus Brighton. Did this small piece on this, where I think Kepa is a better option, just because of the fact that there could be a dodgy clean sheet in there, and I think there is a potential to to get a lot of save points. And I just feel he's playing for a much better defense. I mean, I can't really say much better defense, but I just feel it's a premium team, and I think Kepa has the potential. Liverpool, considering how they've played, they always have a chance to miss chances, not get the goals, create a lot of chances, but maybe not score. And I think you're putting yourself in a position to get lucky there. And I still feel Kepa is the better option. Mount to Mahrez or Odegaard. So I think Mahrez's window has slightly gotten reduced a bit, especially since last week, especially since there was a double game week that could have been taken advantage of. If you are planning to prepare your team for game week 23, I still feel Arsenal's Odegaard is better, because I mean, yes, you could argue that Mahrez is gonna get more minutes, maybe not more minutes, but Mahrez is gonna get more starts. But with Man City, there's always a huge risk, right? So if you're looking at minutes, if you're looking at a much more nailed option, I think Odegaard is the one to go for. If you're looking at a safe option, I think Odegaard is still the play here. Maybe the aggressive move is to go for Mahrez and maybe get a different route to get towards an Odegaard. I think that's also an option. But yeah, I mean, I still feel if I'm going for one pick here, I'll probably look at Odegaard. I want Kane and I had him since game week 1, but I mean, consider my point of view. But if you're not convinced with it, I think it's absolutely fine. As I said, and I've said this a lot of times, there's not a single way of playing FPL. I've seen, I think it was FPL Mihir on Twitter. I think he posted something around his team where he doesn't have an Arsenal. I think he's not had Arsenal players for the entire season, something like that, and he's still doing well. Or maybe it was maybe in the last couple of weeks or something like that, right? So as I said, there's no one way of playing FPL. You can play your game. You can understand things in your own way. Of course, people like me, people like your friends, maybe your rivals in your leagues, they'll also have certain opinions about a certain matchup, certain players, certain picks, but you can have a different one. That's absolutely fine. And if you want Kane, if you're feeling strong about it, have Kane. Then there is a chance that there could be some rank loss. Just sit and hope and pray and hope that Bruno can offset that loss. That's about it. Honestly, you're a channel that helps me a lot. Thank you so much again, and it's really nice that I was able to help you out. I hope you've been having a good time playing FPL this season. Mitoma or March. Personally, I've seen a lot of Twitter threads, a lot of people talking about Mitoma, considering that he's had better numbers. He looks like the more safe player. Looks like the more I can't say Martinelli, because Martinelli still has some potential of getting double-digit hauls. But Mitoma is a player who will give you 6 to 8 points for most weeks, because he's generating decent numbers. Now March's numbers at least are a little less or a little lower than what Mitoma is producing. But March absolutely looks explosive, I mean, he looks like the player who's gonna get more goals. And if you're looking to go a bit aggressive, then I think March is the option. If you're gonna go a bit safer, if you don't want to take a chance, then I think you go Mitoma. But I mean, you're not really taking a huge risk with either of these options, right? Because they're both differentials. They're both gonna give you good, uh, you know, uh, good opportunity to gain a lot of ranks. And I think if I'm looking at one option, I think I'm gonna be a little different. It's not just for the sake of being different. I just personally feel that March is the more explosive options. He can get you more goals. In fact, I think he's gotten three double-digit hauls in the last four games, and that's absolutely mental when you think about it, right? Those are elite numbers, and those are elite performances that we're not even getting from the likes of Salah and KDB right now. So I think, yeah, I think I'll go for March. Start Gabriel Shaw. If I'm starting one, I think I'll start Gabriel. I still have a feeling that Arsenal are more likely to get a clean sheet in this one as compared to Shaw. So I think that's where I am. March to Martinelli, is it worth it? March to Martinelli, it's if it's the other way around, Martinelli to March. I'm thinking that's. I mean, I'll still do Almiron to March right now. I'll still keep Martinelli in case if we get information or if we see that Martinelli suddenly lost his place in the 11 and he's not starting games, then I think it's a different conversation. Maybe not for this stream, not right now, but then as and when it happens. But I think right now, if I'm looking at an option, I'll probably do the Almiron to March move. Yeah, Andres or Shaw. I think I'll still play Andres Pereira. Though Shaw still has good attacking potential, that also comes with a caveat, considering the fact that he plays in that wing back or the full back position on the left side. If he's playing as a centre back, I don't see any attacking potential with Shaw, and a clean sheet is a bit dodgy this week, so I'll probably play Andres Pereira. I know it's Tottenham, but Tottenham also look a bit short on confidence. Their defense is all over the place, and I feel Pereira can definitely get something from the game. That's one of the reasons of course, I don't have Pereira, but that's one of the reasons that I have taken a punt, or it's not a punt, but I feel that Mitrovic slightly has more potential than somebody like like a Shaw, for example. I have Pereira. What am I saying? But yeah, out of the two, is Mitrovic for me. But if you don't have Mitrovic and if Pereira is your Fulham option against even a tricky Tottenham side, I still feel there's merit in playing him. Martinelli out. Is it worth it? I don't think so. As I said, I think it's Almiron out in Martin. I think that'll be the more likely move. Feels like Shaw will be the centre back, and looks like that way. Still not sure about Martinez. I mean, I still feel Martinez could do better than that McFred partnership, and that's where I'm really scared. And that's where I feel, losing Casemiro is a huge, huge loss. But yeah, I mean, I also feel that there are high chances that Shaw can play as a centre back, and that definitely limits his attacking potential. Yeah, there's a few more minutes before the deadline. I think it's 4:30. The deadline is 4:30 IST. So do let me know if you have any more questions. Thank you so much again for Imad for joining the stream. I hope you have a great week. All the best for this week. I hope you have a lovely time. And yeah, thank you for the lovely comment. I mean, these are the kind of comments that really, really makes my day. So thank you so much again. Great, guys. So we'll be calling it a day. I have to rush now. I have to do a lot of work. But yeah, have a great week. Keep smiling. Keep watching a lot of football. I think it's going to be a good week. I think there's a lot of information to assess. We'll try to break down whatever information we can get and help you guys. During this time as well. It's going to be a couple of weeks since we probably meet next time in terms of a stream at least. But yeah, do stay tuned for any content that we put out on Instagram and all that stuff. There'll be updates, etc., coming there as well, and I'll keep you guys posted. Have a good week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.